Well, springtime is here, getting ready to do some spring planting, but we're not going to plant yet. It's the end of May. I don't like planting this early. There's too much risk of frost. Last night we ran into a risk of frost. We had to cover up the house plants. I don't like actually planting until the very beginning of June, or even just early June in general. Out here in the Midwest, frost can hit any time in between then yet. I don't want to lose my entire spring or summer crop. What we're going to talk about today is calibrating the grain drill. Let's face the facts, with inflation going on, prices skyrocketing for everything from seed to sprays to fertilizers. We want to have our stuff calibrated. Not only is it going to save us money, but we're also going to see a better crop in return. And the reason being is, as hunters, we always overdo everything. We have that mindset of if one's good, two is better. Well, that's not always true when it comes to seed. You want to be planting and making sure you're putting in the ground what the recommended seeding rate per acre is. A typical one is brassica. I see that all the time. If it says 2 pounds to an acre, or whatever your seeding rate is, guys will double that, and what happens is that crop will crowd itself out. Not only are you paying more for seed, but you're actually stunting your crop. So being accurate and calibrating your grain drill is actually becoming more and more essential, especially at the price of everything. Running food plots, doing this hobby is starting to become incredibly expensive. We want to cut some costs and we want to be accurate. So that's what I'm taking the time today to do, is we're going to calibrate this grain drill. This is a nice little custom-made 8-footer that was cut, or 8-foot grain drill that was cut down to a 4-footer. I can pull it behind my ATV. I get into a lot tighter locations. It works really slick. I got a back box on it in the front box, which is standard with all your grain drills. Your front box, if you're not real familiar with them, is going to be for your smaller seeds. Your back box is going to be for your larger seeds. Now I'm planting a mix. So I'm going to be planting here in about 2 weeks. I'm going to be planting this here. It's got different clovers, peas and oats in it, and then buckwheat. So it's kind of a soil builder type mix. There's different foods of thought when it comes to planting a mix out of the grain drill. Some guys are like, run your oats, run your big seed, and then broadcast seed your small seed. I've done both. I've run mix out of grain drill. I've done the separating the two. To me, it's kind of a horse apiece. I've had decent results with both, if just done correctly. So this here is an actual mix that we're doing. This is 50 pounds per acre. If you're planting anything like oats, rye, wheat, the bigger seed gets caught up. I run that out of my back box. The other thing is, if I start getting up into that 50 pounds per acre mixture, I'm going to put that also in the back box. When I do my Egyptian wheat and sorghum, that's a smaller seed and it's a lot lighter, 18 pounds an acre. When I plant my blockers, that goes out of the front box. So just be careful on that. And that's the other reason that we do this calibration run. It gives us a chance to see what works before we actually have to get out there and we're crunched for time when it comes time for planting. Because I like to work it right before a rain or right after a rain, and also free time starts getting minimal towards summer. So let's get this thing calibrated and we'll go over that. So what we want to do is we want to establish, let's call it our mock food plot. It's going to be our baseline that we're going to be running off of in order to do this calibration. 100-foot tape measure, screwdriver, stick it in the ground. I use 2 little orange flags. Now bear with me here. We're going to be doing this grain drill calibration in what we kind of call our barnyard. This is where we do a lot of our horse training. So you're going to see other flags here because we're also going to be building a house. So we got stuff marked out, but bear with me on this. We're going to be using these 2 flags here, are going to be our mark. We're going to run a 100-foot baseline. You can use a 10-foot baseline. You can use a 5-foot baseline. You could use 300-foot baseline. It doesn't necessarily matter how far you go. It plays into your mathematics when you're doing it. For me, 100 feet is pretty easy. So that's what we're going to run. You can even use half feet if you wanted to, but I'm not that good with math, so I'm going to keep it simple. So we're going to run a 100-foot baseline. I'm going to stick my flag. And what this flag does is when I drop the grain drill, it tells me when to start and when I need to stop running my grain drill for my calibration process. So it's a very simple process, but first off, we just need to know what we're doing. For distance wise, let's run out 100 feet. Running our baseline, I run my 100-foot baseline, stick it in the flag in the ground, and there we go. So our first measurement is going to be our square footage of our makeshift plot. So it's 100 feet. Our second measurement now is going to be the width of the grain drill. That's going to be my mock plot, is the width of the grain drill by 100 feet. So let's measure the width of the grain drill and let's get that. Okay, so we're getting ready to start dropping seed into the Ziploc bags, but first we got to get the tubes out. where we want to put the Ziploc bags onto. So bear with me here. So I take my Ziploc bags, I got my tubes out. And this, again, this just seems to work best for me, is I'll actually just Ziploc the bag right tight to the tube. And as long as it ain't touching the ground, it stays on there pretty decent and catches all the seed that I need it to catch. So all we're doing is just finding a known area and seeing how much seed we're putting in that known area and comparing that to what an acre would be. So when I measure where my plantings are here, I'm at 4 feet. So that's a 4-foot grain drill. So my imaginary food plot that I'm planting is going to be 100 feet by 4 feet. So to figure out square footage, it's length times width, so it's 100 times 4. That's going to give me my imaginary food plot square footage that I'm going to be doing. So what we're going to do is, you don't want to pour all your seed in. This is a 25-pound bag. All I'm looking to do is do a small scale. So there's little hopper box, or I call them hopper boxes. They're just little divots in your main seed bin. I'm just looking to fill those up. And just to make sure that as I run this thing, I don't run out of seed. It does not take a lot of seed. Okay, so we went through our first run. We got our Ziploc bags of our seed mix all caught, and we're just going to pull it off the tubes. Now I run this on a setting number 8 on my grain drill. All your grain drills will have a little user manual. Whether or not you still got them is going to be the miracle. Of essentially pounds per acre in the seed type. Do not rely on that whatsoever. It's a recommendation or a starting point is probably a best way to put it. I have found that they vary pretty greatly. Also, the size of your seed and what you are planting is going to change as it goes through. Of course, you'd be a little more accurate if I can get it in the container. There. All right, we are actually at 5.1 ounces right now. So now that I know what my total seed amount is, now it's time to do some math, and we'll get this all kind of figured out as to how much pounds per acre I just laid down. The seeding ratio, I did several different settings on my grain drill, and we'll start to finish, we'll break it on down. Starting off with, so I put 2 flags in the ground. I started at 1 and then measured off 100 feet and put a second flag in the ground. That is going to be my starting and stopping point with my grain drill. My grain drill planting is 4 feet wide, so I'm going to do length times width equals 400 square feet. So I know that at one pass with my grain drill at 100 feet, I am in theory planting 400 square feet. So I take my 400 square foot planting area and I divide that by 43,560 square feet. That is 1 acre right there. So I'm figuring out in theory how big of an area I am planting with one pass with my grain drill at 100 feet. That comes, so 400 divided by 43,560 square feet, that comes to 0.00918 of an acre. So that's my planting area with one pass of a grain drill, is 0.00918. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch the seed coming out of my grain drill on that one pass, and that's going to come out in ounces. I'm going to take those ounces, so for this example I had 5 ounces of seed. I convert that into pounds, that's 0.312 pounds. You can do that either the long way, the old school way of math, or you can just Google how many pounds is 5 ounces, and then it gives you a little calculator you can put it into. Kids and their technology makes life a little bit easier. So then I can figure out that I have 0.312 pounds of seed, and I'm going to take that number, which is my amount of seed, and I'm going to divide that by the area that I, in theory, planted, and that's going to give me 33.98 pounds. So my very first run on setting number 8 was approximately 34 pounds of seed to an acre is what I had planted. So I run that same thing, and I collect the seed, re-put it back in the box, and I keep running it through. By doing that, I can come up with different variables. So number 8 setting on my back box is 34 pounds. Setting number 10 is 46 pounds. Setting number 11 is 51 pounds. This is my target right here, is 50 pounds per acre. That is about as close as you're gonna get. So at 51 pounds, setting number 11 is what I'm gonna be planting my soil builder blend with. When I talk about soil builder blend, it consists of oats, there is buckwheat in there, there's peas, there's several different varieties of clovers, and then there's, I want to say, oh, buckwheat, if I didn't say that already, that is in that blend. I can then continue on. Setting number 12 gave me 56 pounds per acre. That's a little bit heavy. And setting number 13 is 58.55 pounds per acre. That's a lot heavy for that. So by running this, I then develop basically a data chart for that seed blend. Now, if I switched up and I went to just straight clover, there's no way I can run setting number 11 with straight clover. As you change the size of your seeds, the seed ratio is going to change also. But this is a very common blend. I like to plant this blend, and I like making a note of it because usually every year I'm planting this. So I know that when I run this soil builder blend that I'm planting right now, number 11 is my target mark, so that I can plant exactly 50 pounds per acre. Well, there you have it. That is how I calibrate my grain drill. I do my blockers come out of my front box, which on the inside of that, I have my different ratio or settings for my front box, which is for my smaller seed. So my blocker plots, which is my Egyptian wheat and sorghum, I run that one primarily out of my front planter box. That's all calibrated. And my soil building blend, which again is going to be oats, peas, buckwheat, and clovers, run that out of my back box. That we found out today that number setting 11 at my 50 pounds per acre. I write it on here because this is a common blend that I plant a lot, so I actually write that on the cover of my planter here. That is how you calibrate a grain drill, or at least that's how I calibrate a grain drill. There's many different ways to do it. That's one way, that's how I've done it. Seems to work pretty decent for me. I have never had any issues with it. All spring long, while I'm waiting for the threat of frost to go away, I can make sure that my equipment's up and running and it's calibrated correctly so that when I get the right soil temps and I have the right amount of moisture and temperature combination, that it's time to get it in the ground. And for me around here, I like to wait until the very beginning of June. I'm going to start planting once that rain starts dropping in here and the temps are higher. So we are all set. Now that it's all calibrated, let's wait for the frost to leave and let's get some seed in the ground once that's taken care of. Correction, let's wait for the threat of frost to leave. It is Wisconsin, that's true. I mean, we could still have frost in the ground by the end of May. Bow hunt or die. So we went through and showed you guys how to calibrate a grain drill. Just running that nice little 4-footer, and we got our summer plots in. It feels good. On the outside, I'll kind of show you what we did here. We expanded this. This is almost an acre total, a little over an acre actually. And this outside that's tilled up, this is where we actually put in our blocker. So our blocker consists of Egyptian wheat, different types of sorghum, and this should get about 10 feet tall. What we're trying to do is enclose this in because our lowest hole in the bucket on this property is that it's very marshy. It's actually very open. And so we're actually we're doing a lot of stuff with trying to get rid of the canary grass and then try to add cover. So that's what this blocker is all about. So we went in and we drilled in our blocker. And then where I'm standing over here, where it's still green yet, and you can see the grain drill marks, this is where it came in and we actually drilled in our summer food plot. That is oats, buckwheat, peas, and several different varieties of clover that we drilled in. Now you're looking at this, and this is not tilled up. And what I've learned through the years, I call it kind of a poor man's no-till food plot system. But when you really get rid of that thatch and you get that competitive weed stuff down on an established food plot. Now, if this is a new food plot, I would till it up, do the conventional process, but this here's established. And when you don't have that much stuff on your surface, and you have a grain drill, you don't have to turn this thing into powder or dust and till it all up. So what I ended up doing is it just went right down with the grain drill. You can see all the lines here where the drill went in, and I drilled our seed in. And then once the seed is all good and drilled in, then I came over it with a cultipacker. And I'm able to cultipack it down, kind of close these lines up and get good seed to soil contact even though I didn't till. Because one thing you got to remember, every time you till the soil, you're going to regerminate new weed seed. So a big benefit of not tilling on an established food plot is that I'm not dealing with all that different weeds, right? So with that being said, you're looking, you're going, well, Josh, there's grass all over your food plot. What's nice is by doing this system, then 2 days later, I came back and I actually sprayed glyphosate over the top of this. And you're going, well, you just planted, now you're spraying. Glyphosate is a post-emergent herbicide, meaning you already have, it has to be green and it has to be growing and it has to be out of the ground in order for it to work. So when you go in and you drill in your seed, or even if you broadcasted your seed, you can spray that seed. That's not going to hurt it. It's not growing. It's not germinated. There's no leaf area. There's no surface area to absorb the glyphosate. So it does not affect my planted seed. And what works great is that I've already done the soil disturbance by doing the drilling, or minimal soil disturbance by doing the drilling. I can come in and I just glyphosate the entire area here, and anything that's green is going to be dead in about 2 weeks. And as that's dying, my seed starts coming on up and in, and now I have virtually a weed-free food plot. I've been doing this for a couple of years and it works really well for me. Again, this side over here, I did have to till. I did also spray this. You can see that there is some grass that's coming up in here. A lot of foxtail and some crabgrass that we hit with glyphosate also. This has just been sprayed about 2 days ago, 3 days ago. When you spray a plot, you have to have it, it has to be actively growing. If it's like July, it's in a drought, it's not growing, you're not going to see that kill off or that good result. So keep that in mind. We're supposed to get some rain tonight and into tomorrow. That'll get things kicked off here. This is early June. Expect to see your food plots or your weeds when you spray them. Give it about 2 weeks. Within a week, you should start seeing it turn brown, and in 2 weeks is when you really should see it getting toasted. But glyphosate, it has to be actively growing to work. So that's how we're able to drill the seed in, keep minimal soil disturbance, and then go right over the top of it with glyphosate and spray it. Now, what we also did after it's all been sprayed, today I came in with a spreader and I actually spreaded a bunch of Milorganite, and it is a good nitrogen for the blockers. So the sorghum and Egyptian wheat uses a lot of nitrogen, so you want to put some fertilizer on that. I decided to go with Milorganite, and the reason I did that is I've heard from several different people, and I've also read that because it is actually human feces recycled, as much as you don't want to be playing with it, it's safe to play with it. Just knowing what it is a different story. But what I've read about and heard is that it does a great job actually of repelling deer for up to a month. You're going, well, why would you want to repel your deer? I ran into some issues last year out here. This is a fairly high deer population area that as my sorghum came up, they were just nipping the tops off of it. So I figured, well, if I can try to keep the deer off it for a month, let it get a little bit more established, get some height to it, and then also get that nitrogen down in the soil, it's kind of a win-win. I can't vouch for it. I can't tell you that it works like it's expected to, but that is what we tried. So anyway, what I did is I ended up broadcasting Milorganite all the way around and on all the blockers here on this property. I put in about 2 acres of blockers is what we have planted in strips. They're probably, give or take, probably about 16 feet wide. You want to keep them a little bit wider so that they have good stabilization under high winds. It's not blowing it down, because that stuff will get pretty tall. So the game plan here is blocker, food plot, and instead of doing one large food plot, I actually ran a strip of blocker right down the middle to make 2 smaller food plots. That way it breaks it up, gives it a little bit more cover. It's not a flat, wide open area. Experimenting with it this year. I am excited. This here is our middle food plot. We have a south one that we've done that I've been working on also. So excited that we are here. The food plots are in, and we're going to see what happens for this fall. Thanks for watching. Bow Hunter Die.